This is I was having some supplements earlier, like I think L-theanine and L-arginine were amongst the ones that I really noticed. And it's like so. I also noticed on there's some hydrochlorine somewhere in one of the supplements I took, and then there's hydrogen cyanide, which is what because basically someone told me like the chemical thing for cyanide. I forgot what you might characterize it as, but essentially hydrogen and cyanide. Uh, because I presented it to someone in conversation. I said, "Hey, this is cyanide," and they said, "Yeah, hydrogen cyanide." So I was corrected one time, and that reminded me of the time I was corrected. Because if you think about it, well, you might think chlorine's bad, but it's to disinfect the pool water a little bit. And cyanide, you might think it's bad, but it's like, okay, it's basically what's in bananas. And it's like, okay, well, if you have a lot of bananas, you're probably gonna have well, you're taking in a lot of potassium. Basically, everything in moderation a little bit, just like level yourself out. So it's like, yeah. Why did I say that? Oh yeah, because what I realized is that I saw something one time where it's like if you use the decaying parts of other fruits, you can certain fruits can take advantage of that and sprout their own from another dead fruit or like a rotten fruit. Basically, decomposition is what it takes advantage of, which is why you have to have like enough nitrogen and like the soils. It's a very complex thing, but to farm and like have a garden. But look, so oxygenation is like what we use for our brains, like when you keep your lungs full, and decarbonation is like basically what we does THC routine, which is when you breathe out. So that's big brain Mars beings, because well, I mean, there's more carbon dioxide, right? So you'd probably have to like find like something related to carbonation, like carbon. Well, if you're assuming carbon-like beings, like humanoids like us, anything that works on like with nucleuses or whatever. So I don't know if previously on my channel, if anyone, let me correct myself, has ever seen me just randomly have markings on what I write. It's because I have an idea, I write it. I have an idea, I write it. I have an idea, I write it. Well, how are these ideas connected? Well, it's like I saw this and I just want to remember it and talk about how I saw it. And you know how like people on like Facebook, they're like, oh, or like Twitter, they're just like, oh, my day was like, or my, I'm doing this. I'm like, well, I'm running into these things. I'm learning chemistry constantly. I'm being reminded of chemistry constantly because it's just like, how everything interacts. I'm being very vague on purpose. Because apparently if I come right out and tell people, yeah, I saw this and I wrote this, and yeah, I saw that and wrote that, and yeah, and then I thought this and wrote this, people are just gonna be like, I don't see how that connects. So I'm trying to go back and explain my thought process, like, oh yeah, so the show and tell, I wrote this side because this, and then show and tell, you guys ever been to kindergarten or whatever? You used to have show and tell, and it's like it's like, this is my pet project. These are my YouTube videos. They're very low effort, but I think they get a point across about chemistry because I like space stuff, and it's like I know I have to become a particle chemist. I don't want to. It's a daunting task, but I'll do it. So the burning sensation that you feel when you smoke that dank stuff is mainly decarbonation. And the oxygenation, let's see. That's just, I guess like technically, when you like take in a breath, you're technically like vacuuming in. You're pulling it in like a black hole, but obviously it has Euclidean geometry to its black holedness, if I may. you're basically sucking in air, and that process is utilizing the oxygen. Kind of like you're kind of like in a pressurized, you're in a viscous environment because I mean you breathe in water vapor, right? And it's like, well, how am I not drowning? And it's like, well, you breathe it in at a rate that does not allow you to drown, really, because your body systems are like, oh, well, we already know how to deal with this not drowningness. I mean, it's like saying, oh, get the fish out of the water because they're obviously drowning. It's like, well, no, they have gills, so they're filtrating that and utilizing the oxygen at a certain rate. It's really based off of the energy consumption available at the time. It's like, and when you get hungry, you start, feeling probably your fatty acids start to work up and start to like eat away at your fat stores, right? So, well, and then this goes as far as to explain why we're visually attracted to like voluptuous things, because it's like dimorphism yeah, it's like for the human species, it's like that just means you have a lot of fat storage, which means it's good, which means you're going to survive in the winter. It's just like biology. So anyways, that's how I got from just like taking supplements to basically like hypothesizing, well, if you're going to be a big brain Mars being, you're probably going to have to utilize carbon. And I'm like, well, I know what decarbonation is like because I'm a big brain Earth being, I think. And I breathe oxygen. It's like what, in the 20-something% range. I don't know, it just kind of changes from time period to time period. But so, yeah, I just made a random video. I haven't made one in a while. Yeah, smoke weed every day.